Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Ohio Guys here. I'm Christian Ocampo, and today I'm joined by another indie actor out in the scene today. We have good old Will Benzel. How you doing, sir?
Doing well. How are you doing, Christian?
I'm doing well. I'm happy to finally have you here after almost like a year or so since becoming a fan of yours, following your Twitch channel, and just having these fun little conversations about video games. So I'm very happy to finally have you here on the Ohio Guys YouTube channel, get an interview, and getting to learn about you a bit more than in the on your Twitch streams.
All right, well, thank you for having me. I love being on here.
I'm very glad you're happy to be here. I'm very excited to get these questions underway. So why don't we get started? So the first question I'd like to ask you is, what is it like working in the indie scene today?
Indie scene, it's interesting. A lot of fun projects kind of going through there right now, in particular, from what I find. Just a lot of kind of stuff across different genres. You will have a whole lot of animation, a whole lot of visual novels, a whole lot of games out there. Um, we're in summer right now. It's pretty healthy work. I find that comes through summer. Fall time is really when it really starts to kick into high gear. Um, I'm getting quite a few auditions kind of coming in. So if you're new into voiceover or want to get into indie voice acting, now is a great time to do it. I totally encourage anyone who wants to try to jump in right now.
Yeah, it's the indie scene has been ever growing. Talking to other actors that are also part of the indie scene with you, they've all said the same thing too, where there's just so many projects that are coming out left and right with all these new titles, these different studios, so much room for newer actors to break into, to try their hand in the indie scene, and to just be part of many projects that keep popping up every day. So yeah, I just looking forward to keep seeing whatever new stuff comes about.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, it's just amazing how many titles are keeps keeps getting cranked out these days. So to kind of make another transition, since your time in the indie scene, is there a favorite project you have that you have worked on?
And there's a lot of them that were kind of fun. Like there's a lot of them that have kind of like a partial voice acting. There's another one where that was actually kind of like it was like a full voice acted thing. Still under NDA on that one, so I can't talk too much about that. But let's see, indie. My favorite indie like voice acting project so far as like interest and stuff that like just closely matches my personal taste is a visual novel by Thrill Switch Games called Nightshade. Played a hitman in that one. His name's Mishka. He kind of does his hitman job at night. Kind of keeps a secret from his love interest, main character Sasha. So it's a BL visual novel, boy love. Uh, Considered not safe for work, but it has a safe for work option. But really, really fell in love with the art style. Really fell in love with the aesthetic when I had initially saw it come through in like auditions and stuff like that. And I just like auditioned for everything I could get a hold of. Uh, and I had gotten the part, and it was I was excited for this one because I had gotten a role that's like not me, not generally me. Like I'm generally sort of the reserved, sort of calm, quiet guy. And while I would consider Mishka an introvert, he's very he's not afraid to, like, particularly like if someone's like making him mad, he's not afraid to really like hey, back off, kind of thing going. So that's where we're different. I really love to play characters that are different from me. And the soundtrack's a big plus. Love, 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 love the soundtrack. Like Iris did a great job on that.
Just want to say we have another special guest. We have Axel joining in to the Skype interview. Always love seeing him.
Hi, Axel. Like every time I do this, he looks so uninterested. Like he looks like all really like interested in stuff until I do that, and then he just like gets up there and like, oh.
He always has the face. Always on your Twitch channel.
Always has the face. But like if I could get him sitting right, I kind of give him a little chin scratch, and he kind of goes, I was like, oh yeah, oh, do more of that, please.
We love him. Anyone that follows the Twitch channel, we're happy to see him make his little brief appearance. Right now, he's been sticking around for a while.
Yeah, he's been in here for like maybe 2 hours already. This is the most interested he's been in sitting in the chair while I'm in the chair. Longest time that I can remember. Like occasionally he'll sit there for like maybe 15, 20 minutes or so, and then he just jumps off and does something. But he's been up here pretty consistently for the past 2 hours. Chin scratch?
It's a good chunker.
Chunker? A little bit.
So yeah, Night Shades, definitely a good vision now. I've been hearing good things about since meeting you on Twitter / Twitch. Been seen as one of your highlights. For anyone that knows you, it is a title that is synonymous with you, since it's really garnered a good fan following. So hopefully people that are watching this interview right now will check it out whenever they are done watching this interview and see what it's all about.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's a great little project. I've had a couple playthroughs myself, like, but yeah, no, but it's just everybody on the team did a great job with it. Just the creators, you had like just everyone involved with it just really put their heart and soul in it. And yeah, it's just like you can definitely tell whenever you read through it.
Definitely, man. Definitely. Just big fan of Vision Novels over here, and the projects. Love it. So I can tell everyone tries putting their A game into these titles. So yeah, man. And to kind of continue on the questions here, another project you have to work on is Soul Hunters. What was that working on that one?
Oh, that one was interesting. Like, okay, that one was a fun one. Because like it was like I never imagined I would play just a giant like evil eyeball. Like that's not something I would ever just say just like think I would ever have played. But and initially I had auditioned for that part, and I just listened back to it, and I'm like, oh, this sounds terrible. I'm gonna submit it. Because like I was like listening to it for like maybe about an hour for a while. I'm like, it's got to be perfect. I gotta, and it's like whatever, just go. And I had heard back later that evening after I'd submitted it, and it's like informed me that I had gotten that part. I'm like, oh, cool. When do we start? And it's like, just record these lines, submit what you got, and this was like one of my earlier parts, because like I had already known who had been like, I had done my research prior to doing the audition, and like I kind of knew what I was getting into. And I'm like, oh man, there's some big names on this one. But yeah, no, like big. I was just humbled whenever I had like they had finally like messaged me back and told me exactly what this project was. and I was just like, oh my God, this. Mm. And so like at that point, I didn't want to mess up, and I didn't. They said I did a good job, uh, and yeah, I think I did a little too much at one point though. I was like, I'm gonna give them the full service package. I'm gonna do like my voice, send them the raw cut, do my voice, send them like the sort of raw-ish edits, send that in. Then I'm gonna give them my own voice modulations, and I gave them a lot more than I necessarily needed to. But that's just my obsessive compulsive disorder on full display there. But they're like, oh yeah, the raw's good. The raw's good. That's all we need.
Hey, you are dedicated to your craft and you went above and beyond for giving them your best quality work. So I gotta applaud you for that because I always appreciate hearing actors just going that far to give these producers, directors your very best. So that's awesome to hear just how far you went.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, that's Soul Hunters there. Another of many games guys you gotta check out, but heard tons of good things, and now knowing that how much you put work into it, I want to check it out even more than before. So here's another title you have to work on, and again coming back to just actors breaking into the indie scene, getting some work done. This one has so many names attached to it, and this one is Meister High. What was like working on that one?
So Meister High, that one's still an ongoing project. But that was the first time and it wasn't the first project I had auditioned with Media Context. They got Media Context is one of the probably the best prospects for if you're newer voiceover talent wanting to get into stuff. They put auditions out like all the time. So keep them on your radar if you're wanting to get in, do some work. A lot of people auditioning for it, but don't get discouraged. Auditioning, that's just a numbers game. It's a reality for every actor that most of your attempts are going to end in failures with auditions, and you just got to learn to persevere through it. So, with that one out of the way, back to answering the question actually. Uh, but Bye, Axel. Uh, Meister High was one of the earlier projects I had auditioned for with Media Context. I think Archmage Legacy was the first project I auditioned with for them. Like I had heard back from their. I'm not going to name drop. I don't know if they want me saying names on the interview, but the sort of the audition, like the casting coordinator, had reached out to me, and they really liked my auditions that I'd sent in. They're like, "Hey, we want to put you on a list for continued consideration for our project." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And like I think at this point it's their newsletter now, so I think if like anybody really wanted to get onto it, they could get onto that. So I had eventually come to audition for Meister High. This was either the first or second round of auditions for that. And I saw a character that I was just like, oh man, this guy is probably as close to me as I can audition for. So I'm just gonna just take the notes into account and like just do myself basically. And I got the role of a guy by the name of Cross. He's like a teacher's assistant, probably one of the older cast members. He's very I describe I think this was how he was actually described in the script too, but I also just happen to describe stern and stoic. He will not take like crap from like the students that he's helping to teach. But he's cool. He's got like some really cool power where he can like create these black holes and stuff like that. But seldom like uses them just because he knows how destructive that sort of power can be. And it's just like, I like I like that about him. It gives me a little bit to like work with as far as character work. Um, but yeah, like any little nuances like that, like he can do this thing, but he chooses not to, and here's why. It gives you a lot to work with as far as doing character work, and you can do so much with little details like that, and trying to craft that character.
And again, coming back to just the number of actors names attached to this project, and this is like the other reason why I have been following a lot of actors because of this title. Like every time I saw an announcement who's going to be part of it, this person or that person got added. I'm like, okay, I'll support them. I'll follow them on Twitter or whatever social media they have, and just so many things to talk about from just this title alone. And now knowing more of the reasons behind it because of the company that has produced it, they're willing to give actors a chance to show off their acting chops, to be part of their titles that they give out. So amazing knowing that there's a support system that's willing to give newbies a shot. So I'm glad to kind of learn from that now, hear you talk about it, and just a little bit of the inner workings. So hopefully, if there's any other future actors out there watching this interview, at least it can at least turn to one source and then start branching out and start accumulating so many titles and keep finding more places to get work from.
Yeah, actually, I have a little note to add on to that. Actually, like if we're still talking about um, like places like newer voice actors can try to find work, Voice Acting Club there's a Discord, VAC. It's run by Kira Buckland. A whole bunch of other talented people are part of that community. People from all walks of the voice acting industry. Great place to, they got like a auditions page, places where you can ask for technical advice, all kinds of stuff. From time to time, I believe there's you can also find classes. I believe there's a classes listing there. Kira Buckland herself. I don't know if she's doing classes right now, but she has done them in the past. Very good teacher, very knowledgeable, great place to get started amongst other people's who are in that channel. A lot of knowledgeable voices out there.
Yes, definitely familiar with Kara Buckland, her Discord channel. Anyone can definitely go into it if they want to see what it offers, what it entails. So again, so many sources out there nowadays that people can turn to and to help beef up their background in voiceover. Just so many places to turn to, places to learn, and people to get some feedback, just anything that will help them learn their crafts. It's out there. There's so many places they can turn to nowadays.
Yeah, tons.
Yeah, so many there. So moving on to another title we got to work on. And this one I'm very excited to talk about because this one will be one more stunning, most visual capturing indie project you have done. And this one is Kaori After Story.
Oh, Kaori After Story. Okay, wow. I think that may have actually been the first voice role I got cast in. Yeah, Kaori After Story. It's a sort of like a spin-off sort of conclusion to Kaori's story in Ace Academy. But that one, it is full voice acted. It has full voice acting. So that was my first experience with like a kind of sort of a hefty workload. with working on the character there. But it was a lot of like I learned a lot doing that one, just kind of about my own setup, kind of things I could work on better with doing recordings over longer like periods of time, kind of thing. But yeah, that is wow, I think I just blew right over what it actually was. Yeah, it's a spin-off conclusion Kaori's story. It's like the winter break, and the main character spends it with Kaori. If Kaori is the love interest in the base game. There's a few different routes you can go, but for the time being, as far as Ace Academy goes, I believe Kaori After Story is the only one that actually got its own after story. But I play Mystery Tommy. I play Kaori's father, and he's a very like very calm, very nice. Uh, he shows a little part in there where he may indicate maybe a tinge of overprotectiveness of his daughter, maybe here and there, but very appears to be very trusting of the main character. But it's a really nice, really sort of like slice of life story. Uh, it's sort of just it should be taken as exactly as it is described. It is an after story. It's sort of like the like DLC conclusion of Ace Academy, if you did follow that route.
When I was looking at stuff you worked on, way before we got this interview scheduled, it stood out to me just by its visual look, its coloring, its character designs, everything about it just really was beautiful. And it looks like one of those visual novels that looks like it's ready to get an anime adaptation just by its looks by itself. So that was the impression. Like, oh, this looks gorgeous. Like, this would be great for an anime if I ever did get one.
Yeah,
So,
I'm sorry,
no,
did
go
not
ahead.
mean to
No.
roll over you there. No, I was just saying, like Pixel Fate does a lot of work like that. Like they got Ace Academy, they got Crystalline, they got Ethereal Enigma. Is just a whole bunch out there that they work on. It almost looks in like they even have their own little animated beginnings, like actual like anime style like animation in there. They put a ton of work in what they do over there.
I love hearing that. Eh, Especially here in the States. Look how far American hands have gone in terms of capturing that anime spirit from Japan and putting it into their own little twist, their own little versions, their own little spins, whether it be like a small little clip of anime or like these full-on visual novels. I really hope as time goes on we can get like more of American hands that make full-on animes just as good as the quality or better quality than Japan does. I think it'd be a very interesting dynamic just with more of American mindset to it and more of a different angle to produce a full-on anime from an American perspective.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good like Japanese inspired Western animation out there. Like we're I think we're starting to see it. But definitely seeing it in indie productions. Like I know of stuff in Canada, I know of stuff in the United States, I know of stuff in France, the Netherlands. Like there's stuff all over the place that's inspired by Japanese animation that's kind of coming out there. This may not be, this isn't an indie example, but like Avatar, like The Last Airbender, Legend of Korra, like you can definitely tell there was a ton of like inspiration from like Asian animation going into like this studio out in Los Angeles. Just like at first I looked at it and I'm like, oh, this is Nickelodeon's getting into anime now, and I'm like, oh wait, this is an American studio.
Yeah, it's a lot of influence, a lot of just pages getting borrowed from the books of these creators from Japan. To see just more of that, just more of a dedication, more of these future titles that be in the forefront. That's what I'm really hoping to see, just more of a and a higher scale and more of a higher level than what we're used to these days. So hopefully that'll be something in the next maybe another decade or so. We might see more of that. So we can only just wait and anticipate for that to happen. Otherwise, I really love this title. I really haven't played it yet. I've only seen just tidbits of it. I I really hope to get a chance to probably stream it on your Hi Guys channel sometime in the future, and maybe it'd be pretty cool if you can maybe stream it on your Twitch channel if you haven't done already. For fans to probably like see stuff you're in on your Twitch channel, that'd be probably a very cool thing to see for anyone that is a fan of yours.
Oh, like my stuff. I've considered doing a couple of those actually. I'd considered a Nightshade stream one time, but just like I was looking around at like everybody I know, everybody was doing the Nightshade stream, and I'm like, oh man, I may need to wait before I try to do this. It's just gonna be like oversaturating the pool right now. Just like everybody's doing Nightshade, and I'm just thinking to myself like, you know, I could probably like wait a little bit longer, like see like when is the best time I can do this to show more people like uh like what Nightshade is, and yeah, like with Nightshade, I don't know who I would do, whose route I would do. So that's the dilemma as well.
For sure, for sure. All right, so here's another title that I really have like just a brief moment to check out. But this one I can tell it's garnered some good fan following, and this one is Tailor Tales. Well, I was like working on that one.
Tailor Tales. I was excited when I got onto Tailor Tales. Like I had, by the time I had, and this one's a bit of an interesting one too, because like I had like known about the project. To my understanding, the route that I was working on, like I had known about the route well before I had actually gotten the part. Reason being, I actually was not the original voice of Veritas. I was a second pick. Uh, I had gotten cast as the role of Veritas uh, in the James route. That's kind of like more of a superhero route. You have a whole bunch of different routes in Tailor Tales, and they each kind of have their own little theme, their own little character who has their own little quirks, and the main interest, like there's like only one love interest in each route. Each one has their own different unique story, just from beginning to end. It's like each route is almost like a full game, a full story to it. But James route, that's kind of like the superhero route. A whole lot of a lot of fun stuff in that one. But I had initially auditioned for the that part, and like I had not gotten it initially, but I think I know why. I don't think I had provided enough samples or something like that. And the other guy who had gotten it, he did I thought he was a good fit for the voice too. But I had heard back and it's like, hey, are you still interested in working on this project? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And they're just like, okay, so give us some takes of this and this and this, and basically I gave them exactly what they wanted, and they're like, okay, you got the part. And then I essentially just did some recordings of it. A lot of like expressive lines in there. Probably the most expressive lines I've had in a project like ever. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's like I did like a whole bunch of takes of all different expressions, and that was another bit of a learning experience for me. How you can take one expression and do so many different things with it still meaning like the same thing, but maybe with slight differences, kind of thing. That was I feel like I had learned a lot about sort of the slight differences that adjustment to tone can give to a line or a effort sound or some stuff like that.
This one really sounds interesting just by how you described it. Before we start this interview, we talked just briefly about routes, how in any game, routes are important, player choice is important. Just giving the power to the player to choose where they want the story to go, where they want the character to go. I think that's a really important element for any company, whether it be indie or AAA, to really consider how far will they let the player decide on the story overall. Will the player be satisfied with the choices they make, with how the flow of that route that will take them to it maybe a better story, a better outcome, or something in there that's going to really reward them or give them a sense of satisfaction going through those different directions. So glad to know that this one was really heavily thinking about routes and putting in so much detail, so much work if the player decides to go on one of these different avenues that are offered to the player.
Yeah, each one is their different story depending on which character you choose.
Yeah, and again, just the layout, the plan that goes behind it. And you can really tell that a creator who plans ahead, who really thinks about these routes, the flow of the story, really wants to give something different, offer the player like different things and where that's going to lead them to. So Tailor Tales, glad to know that there's really something that offers like really special things to the players. So yeah, always big importance with routes and just planning ahead what happens on these routes.
Yep. There's a lot to work with in that one. Sorry, I think I gotta pat her. There's a little extra like spoof in there for your interview.
That's fine. But yeah, just again, we both can keep rambling on about routes because that's a whole discussion in itself about routes and the flow of stories. So yeah, I hope people really have a big takeaway on that because I really think it's very important and it's very vital in visual novels that focus on storytelling. So yeah, so on to next title to kind of like finish things off on stuff you've been known for your work. This one is Through the Panels. What was like working on that one?
Oh, Through the Panels it's fun. Like I've played through the demo on that one afterwards, and it's a cute little story. It's like it's a slice of life. You follow a story of a girl who does these illustrations, and that's kind of like what you're getting into. Like it's through the panels of like each frame of like is like a sort of like a graphic novel kind of thing. Is what I take it for. But I played a guy by the name of Richard. Sometimes it says like "Call me Dick" or something like that. Yeah, he's kind of got like that dry sort of like sense of humor. He's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna say this completely straight faced because it's just funny. The words are just funny, and that's all they need to be." But he's very. I loved to do that voice because like it really gets me into my like lower register. It's such a low register. I actually have to be standing up to do it because like I have to like sort of like move my head down in a way and then take so much air um, up from my diaphragm to actually do the voice safely. But it's a much lower register than what I naturally do, I guess. But like if you really and just for newer people out there, actually, now that I'm getting into this, do not try to do what you can't naturally do with your voice without the training to do it, because you can really hurt yourself if you do. Aaron Dimsky, he's not indie. He's well known. I believe. I think I'm right on this, but I think he was the voice of Alphonse Elric. He's all grown up now. He had an instance where he was doing a lot of yelling, according to a Twitter post of his, and um, he's having to rest his voice. He's having to take projects off for a while because he overexerted his vocal cords. So yelling will do that to you. Really low, like sort of growly kind of voice can do that to you. There are classes out there for doing those yells and those growls. There are classes out there to do those safely. And a lot of projects, you gotta yell on a lot of these. You don't necessarily need like a class to yell. But if you're going to be stuck in a particular voice for a while, learn how to utilize it safely. It will save you problems in the future.
I'm very glad you brought that up, especially with more newer actors coming into the scene. So much training being offered, classes online with reputable actors who've had experience in the scene, whether it be from Texas, California, New York, many more sources to point to in terms of getting the proper training, learning how to use the vocal cords in a proper way without tearing them apart. And yeah, you mentioned, I heard the last name Aaron Dismuke. That's the common way I heard that his last name pronounced.
Got it.
But yeah,
got it.
Yeah, so great example. After so many years talking to so many actors, I hear the same thing. They also have in common they got rest of the voices. You hear stories, whether it be in interviews or panels, conventions, where it takes that one character, that one title, project that really may take up so much work from the voice, and they just have to take time off, sometimes weeks, maybe even like a month or so, just rest of those chords. So yeah, just always big importance, just knowing what their limits are, knowing how far they can go when trying to portray a character behind the booth. So always glad you can always bring what you learn to these indie titles. They might be indie, but they do take the same amount of performance as if you were the most professional, the most AAA, the most Disney, Cartoon Network quality production, because that is your instrument. That is what's giving you the roles. It's your voice, your vocal cords. You tear that, you don't have the instrument anymore. You are out of work because you can't make those voices. You cannot perform. So very important. very vital having that type of knowledge in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd actually also even say that for indie voice actors, it's even more important to protect your voice, because like with bigger projects, you're likely gonna have a director who knows what they're doing, how to direct someone to kind of space the work to do it safely. In union projects, there's even regulations about like, I think it's like a pay thing. Like, you do something, there are ways for like union actors to be protected whenever they're using their voice. For non-union projects, a lot of that is up to the actor themselves to just kind of decide whether or not, okay, is this, if I do this, is this going to be too much? And I've actually had to turn down projects before, because I was just working with a director who didn't understand the fact that, hey, this is too much. You're asking me to do too much with my voice here. Like, I'm not gonna be able to give you these lines with these effort sounds that you need me to do here. And essentially, in this instance, I was being asked to do a voice that I couldn't keep up. And this was a learned experience on my part. I had figured out, kind of learned in the middle of the job, like, I can't keep this voice up. I'm sorry. This role has to go to somebody else, kind of thing. So yeah, this is kind of like a learn from others' mistakes kind of thing. You're gonna make plenty in your career. Everybody does. But in regards, if there is something that I would pass on to somebody I wish I had known when I started, learn the limitations of what you can do before you, if it sounds like it could be strenuous, but you think you can do it because, like, oh, I've got the willpower to do it. Well, maybe your vocal cords don't. So you're not Superman, even if you think you are. But know your limitations when you go into it. Learn to get better. Learn to sort of train yourself to surpass those limitations safely, and I think you'll go places.
So yeah, just more knowledge here. Just always great to hear actors. And again, we hear from the professionals, or I mean, everyone's a professional in their own way, but those that are really established, to share this knowledge to not just the actors, but to the audience, so they know what the actor is going through behind the booth. Then hearing you, you're still in the indie scene, but you take in what these established actors have shared with everyone, and to always keep that in mind whenever you are working on any project, regardless of the level on where it's at. So again, thanks again for sharing those golden nuggets with us.
Oh, if somebody is helped by it, I am happy too.
Yeah, great stuff. And yeah, so many great titles we just got to cover here. So this brings me to a funny question I like to ask everyone. If you could be any character you have played in real life, who will you be? And you can mix and match.
I'd be. Who would I be? I don't know. Let's see. That's a hard one. I don't know. Like, it's like, the reason I became an actor is because I kind of like to get in the heads of other people and tell their stories. Like, that's not just exclusively voice acting. That's for like theater. That's for film, stuff like that. But character that I would most like to be, if I were to disregard that previous bit of information. Jeopardy song played. Um, I don't know. I'd probably do Optos, like the eyeball guy from Soul Hunters. Um, he's got like just these powers that they're just really cool. It suggests he's kind of got some like hypnotic thing going on and can do hypnosis, and it's just if I were to just put my shoes in someone's put myself in someone's shoes for one day without too terribly much like repercussions in these powers, for instance, cross from Meister High. Like I don't have to open a black hole and have too much like bad happen. Maybe just like set a tree on fire or something. Just to try it, get the T-shirt, say I did it. I'd probably be Optos.
For sure. Always just good to hear kind of the answers of actors. Just of all the characters you guys have played, just having to think about it. Just think, what can you get from those characters you guys played? Maybe powers or maybe like physical trait, just something. So the giant eyeball character was interesting one. So yeah,
just to see what it's like to use powers like that.
yeah, definitely. So to kind of really change things up, especially for this interview with you, Will, during your Twitch streams, having the pleasure of just talking about video games and why we enjoy video games. Want to talk about like maybe stuff that really spoke to you in different ways with these titles, whether it stories, its characters, the genre itself. To kind of give us like one example, we're both big Silent Hill fans for different reasons. So for the audience who want like kind of like know more about your taste, know more about like what you look for in video games, why don't you tell us your love for Silent Hill and why you love Silent Hill?
Silent Hill. So Silent Hill was a game series that I'd kind of gotten more interested, kind of high school time frame. Like it was a little bit later whenever I discovered that. Well, I knew what it was, but I didn't really like invest too much time into it. Silent Hill 2, like was the first Silent Hill game I played. I had played through it. I remember it as being like one of the only games ever that actually made me cry. Like just it's a roller coaster if you play through it. Like, but what kept me staying, like, and I like Silent Hill 1, I like Silent Hill 3, but the ones and like there's some of the other games that I like too. Homecoming was all right. And I think Shattered Memories, that one was really good too. But Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 4 are probably the highlights of that series for me, for the reasons being, and I think Shattered Memories does this pretty well too. They explore the human psyche in a way that not a lot of other video game titles out there do. You go into Silent Hill 2 not knowing much at all. You're just in here in a car and you're there to see your dead wife. It's not until much later that James realizes why he's there. And it's not just James that's interesting there. It's just the entire cast. Really gets into people, and it shows us all kinds of different people, all kinds of different personalities, what they think, how they feel, why they are spending this time in this sort of purgatory, hellish landscape. And you really get to see the worst of them, the best of them, like in some instances, some of these characters are worse than the monsters that inhabit the landscape, just is like their natural habitat, like the nurse, like Pyramid Head, like he's there to sort of like judge James before he moves on. And this a lot of this is how I interpret it, and I think some of it is confirmed canon by the developer, but I'm not ready to like confirm exactly what is and what isn't without reading something first. But that is Silent Hill 2. That's actually, I consider that, and I go back and forth with Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time and Silent Hill 2 as being my favorite, but like they're like right there. Silent Hill 2 is like one of my favorite games ever. I'm not gonna say too much more because I get too spoilery if I do. There is a twist. I'm not going to get into that. And Silent Hill 4 is interesting to me because it almost analyzes one, like while Silent Hill 2 analyzes a bunch of people, Silent Hill 4 seems to particularly analyze one, and that is the villain character of the game. Silent Hill 4 conveyed a message to me that people aren't inherently evil. They are a product of circumstances, cause and effect within their lives. And I am not saying Walter Sullivan should be excused for anything that he does in Silent Hill 4, but you see before and you see after with Little Walter. I believe Little Walter was included to sort of show you the Walter Sullivan before he started going on his crime spree and trying to conduct his 21 sacraments. And it just shows someone who wants to see their mom again. And then you see the root, and then you become aware of the story that led up to what he ended up becoming. And it's a very interesting way to tell the story of a character, and I really appreciate Silent Hill 4 for that.
We can really just create a whole just dedicated podcast on Silent Hill. Just so much ground to cover, so many layers to peel back. I've been with you on the ride, especially with Silent Hill 4. Just seeing the gameplay, the storytelling, and we've got to acknowledge the music behind all these different sequels, from the musical talent of Akira Yamaoka, just his choice in the melody, the lyrics behind it, because they all have a certain gravity. Whenever we get these cutscenes and these moments in the gameplay, always hits a certain way that just really makes us remember, even after we stop playing these games, we still think back about both the music and those moments of the gameplay where it just throws right back. And then, of course, Hideo Kojima, the genius mind that he is, he just knew just story structure. He knew the horror element very well, just in a whole different level than other creators who dabbled into horror and to the psychological thrillers out there. And yeah, just amazing, just respects to these guys, and hopefully both Akira and Kojima will one day reunite to give us Quiet Mountain.
Quiet Mountain. Oh, I'm waiting for the day.
Same here. You got Kojima Productions out in California. It's only a matter of time before we hear something, whether it be from this year or another few more years. Just gotta get the band back together and then give us the canceled Silent Hills PT that we lost over almost close to a decade. Wow, just thinking back how far the timeline has gone, I just can't believe we're almost at a 10-year mark. So yeah,
Wow.
just loving
Wow.
Silent Hill.
10 years ago.
Almost, we're almost
Almost.
there. Yeah. So yeah, just so much love, so much respect for Silent Hill. It's one of a kind. It's just really hard to replicate something like that. It stands on its alone for what has accomplished, and it's 20 years of its presence of what is given to the gaming community.
Yeah. It's and I'm even looking forward to the stuff that they allegedly uh have working on. Apparently there's some new Silent Hill titles. There's rumors that Bloober's working on it. Those may have been disproven, but I'm not sure. But I have heard through some sources, some rumors. I think there was even some photographic proof that there may be a Silent Hill title being worked on. So I'm interested to see what happens with it.
Yeah, same here. We just gotta keep waiting. The years keep ticking. We've just been deprived of any Silent Hill titles that we've been thirsty for.
Yeah, pachinko machine.
Oh man, we just I'll let the man with the tall hat and goggles take care of that. He's really doing that on his channel. I still love that man in a different side of things, but I will mention him at a different time. So another title that's really spoken to you and to me as well, and it's going to be the Doki Doki Literature Club. So why don't you tell us about your love, your respects for that game, and tell us why. I know it's a very very unique title for different reasons that I'm pretty sure you're going to be elaborating on.
Okay, yeah. Let's see, Doki Doki Literature Club. I had heard about it when it initially came out. It got viral pretty quick, and like back in what was it, like 2017 or something. Yeah, but I'd heard about it pretty early, and everyone was like, "Oh, this is a messed up game. You got to try it." I'm like, yeah, I'll have a look at it sometime. And like I had come pretty aware early on, well before I ended up playing it, that it face value is quite subversive in what it actually ends up being. Like you have most of the first act you go through, it's just your standard like sort of like dating sim visual novel. And then you get to end of Act One. Yeah. But this is wow, you're hitting all the interesting ones because this is another one that actually made me, and I actually cried on stream uh during I think this was during the Sayori's um I think it was like during Sayori's confession thing because I already knew it was coming. Like I knew all the like horror points of the game, but like I didn't know it actually got that deep. Like I thought it was just some gore fest, sort of like, oh, just little cute kawaii anime girls just like dying in absolutely horrible ways. But it's so much more deeper than that, especially when I got to that point. Like I had my expectations, and my expectations were like on this side here, but they ended up being like the reality was way over here. I'm like, oh my god, this is so deep, and it was so much deeper when you actually got into it. Like, and it's to a point to where I think people just like play the game for like all the horror value to it. That there's just so much great stuff in the character work. Like in the Sayori thing, it's been like I like kind of looking up opinions afterward after I played, see what people think and stuff like that. And there's some divisiveness around how Sayori was handled. Sayori it went into it essentially slapping you in the face. Sayori has issues that they're dealing with, and that's what it is so tragic. And like I knew it was coming, and I was like, oh my god, like she is telling you this, and you can't stop it. And oh my god, I feel terrible right now. But to me, it's sort of demonstrated that maybe we don't know what is right for everyone at the right time. Because the main character keeps saying, hey, I know what's right for you all the time after he's revealed this information. And I'm not going to get into too much more spoilery stuff, but the sort of like twist on what is pulling the strings here, it's an interesting one, especially if you get into like the plus gameplay, and there's stuff in the actual game too, where you have to do some interesting stuff with files. But yeah, no, it really is a medium of video game that is one of a kind in what it does, and I feel like the game it should be a example of how, and I think we're seeing more of it too. Like we're starting to see more of sort of like breaking the fourth wall kind of stuff. I feel like Doki Doki Literature Club has done a lot to sort of push that.
It's really pushed a lot of things. For me, I think what really made it special is it pushed boundaries. It was able to cross certain lines that we as the audience did not even know existed until they did it, until we saw certain moments, saw certain things that were crossed, and then we had to kind of catch ourselves like, whoa, like we didn't even think about it because we just think about it in just video game terms until they do it. We had to like refresh our minds. We had to really take a step back and relook on what just happened. There's a lot of things we just did not see coming. Everything was unexpected. We had a bit of that shock value, or as you said, like the horror value that came to it. Overall, just the story, the build up to those moments is really what made the story special. Again, just going back to having a beginning, a middle, end, going through the storyline, getting to these certain points, then you start to see how everything comes into fruition. And I'm just glad that the mind behind it, Dan Sabato, was able to think outside the box and give us just something different. Just take a simple concept of visual novels and then just put it on its head in a way we just never thought would be possible. Just seeing it all transpire.
Yeah, definitely something that definitely a pioneer in the visual novel scene for sure. But yeah, it did a lot to really, I guess, capture my imagination, and it really helped me. It let me sort of like think about things in perspective, like how their personalities would be manipulated into extremes, and that's more made evident in Act 2 and Act like 3, after like more during like Yuri and Natsuki's thing. But it tells us that people are dealing with more than what they may want to show you, and just sort of like treat people well. And that's probably the most important lesson I took out of it.
Yeah, again, just the emotional aspect. And another example, another title that focuses on the human psyche. Just when you start to dive deep, you start to, in a way, kind of either relate to some of the characters, you start to sympathize with these characters on what they're going through, and then you just can't let go. You just end up just exploring a bit more, learning more on these characters, and start to have certain thoughts about them. And I think Doki Doki did a great job on just us as audience trying to take something out from these characters and really start to analyze them in a different way, not just as cute girls in a visual novel, but almost really like human beings in a way, and as well as maybe we think about maybe people in our lives that have like a small portion of them in these characters. So just again, another huge podcast we can just talk about, just dissect and peel back on Doki Doki Literature Club. So much things it has offered us, has given us when it first came out, and still 5 years later after the game was released, we're still talking about Doki Doki Literature Club. We're still hoping that we get more of it, maybe like a sequel, and seeing what Dance Battle will do, creating such a different subgenre, a bit of a combination of different genres put together. Just so many avenues that can be taken when we talk about Doki Doki Literature Club. I'm hoping to keep getting more if we ever get some. I know we've got tons of mods. You got to explore one yourself as you ended one yesterday. And so you can tell like there's fans out there that like to see, like to explore what could be or what could have happened, and just branch out from different acts, different story parts from Doki Doki. So just a lot of things to just unpack from this title by itself.
Yep, tons to look into. A lot of replayability value, actually. Especially want that true ending.
Yeah, it just wow, just such a title that still going strong. Just the characters, there's always just something about them that just draws us back. The music, the scenery, those moments, both the shocking ones and some of the wholesome ones as well, and just so many ways to look back at that title and just think about just what happened, like what all went down. It's really has taken a life of its own now that you think about it. Just whew, yeah, man, just so much we can just ramble on about Doki Doki.
Yeah, quite a bit out there. A lot of other content too, from what I understand, as far as like fan work and stuff like that.
Always, man, always. So yeah, man. So to kind of finish things off, is there anything else coming out that you can talk about, or anything out right now that you want to plug in at this time?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't know if there's like anything like specifically to do like a plug for. Recently, I've was just cast into another media context project, Horizon Bound Legacy. I believe is what it's called. I do a mage by the name of Asher. Sort of, it seems to be like a younger character than I usually play, which is interesting for me too. But it's one of those characters where I do like a younger voice, and I don't do a lot of those. I feel like maybe aside from some characters where I just kind of like do my natural voice, but my natural voice can also just as easily sound older. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to see where that one goes too.
Right on. So, last question, we always gotta ask: is there any Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Twitch, maybe any other social media for fans to follow you at?
So I most often check my Twitter. I do have a Facebook. I kind of use that more of as a way to keep up with like people I know in real life. Um, but as far as just the follow, if anybody's interested in following or anything like that, uh, Twitter, just Will Benzel, all one word, is the handle for that. Twitch, if you're interested in watching me stream some games, it's Dub Benz. It's like all one word, but it's like sort of like a capital D and a capital B. Dub Benz is in Will Benzel. Yeah, I thought I was being clever.
No, I think it's pretty clever. I like it. So yeah. Well, thank you, Will, for your time for this interview. I appreciate making the time for this. I always love having indie actors come here and talk about their indie work. So this was definitely a big pleasure having you on here.
Oh, thank you. It's been a blast, Christian.
Yeah, thank you. And again, thanks for diving deep into both Silent Hill and Doki Doki, and of course, the rest of your indie work. This is just great, just hearing your thoughts on everything here.
Oh, well, thanks. It's good to give my my piece of my mind on that. So thank you for giving me that platform.
Yeah. And I want to say thank you to our viewers here for tuning in for this episode of the Ohio Guys. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in for this episode. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everyone.
Bye, y'all.